Hello and welcome. Today we're gonna be taking a look at some r/PettyRevenge, where some roommates are gonna be getting the short end of a stick and more. Thank you for being here. Please consider subscribing. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let's get started. So my former roommate, female 21, let's call her M, and I, female 21 as well, were friends for about 10 years. We moved in together last August and everything went really well until about February. In February I started dating this boy, C, and things were going really well, so I decided to introduce him to M and we all hung out at mine and hers apartment. We had a few drinks, played some games and all was going well. I had work in the morning and went to bed earlier than they did. When I woke up I could hear them in the room giggling. So I go over, knock, and can hear them freak out. I open the door and you guessed it, they're both naked. I don't do anything, I just go get ready for work and text him that we're done. Now, I loved M like a sister and wanted to hear her out. Stupid, I know. But basically that conversation consisted of her calling me manipulative because I self-harm for attention. So we go a month not talking and COVID hits and I decide to go home. Now it's important to note that we are both on the lease, which includes rent, water and heat. So the Wi-Fi and the electric are in my name and she would just e-transfer me her half. Even after our falling out, she would still transfer me half until May when she blocked my number and social media. Now, I can't get out of my lease without paying a fee for every month we'd been living there. It would have been more than just paying the remaining few months' rent, so I decided I'll pay the electric and half of my rent, even though I'm not living there. The first step of revenge is I turn off the Wi-Fi and take the router because it's in my name, so obviously. The next step is I pay all of my remaining halves of rent at once so that I can have my name taken off the lease without actually cancelling it. Any further damage isn't my fault and I don't have to pay the fees this way. Next, I move out every piece of furniture that's mine, which includes the couch, the TV, all the DVDs, the TV stand, the coffee table, etc. Basically almost all of the furniture and 90% of the dishes and cutlery. So now she has basically her bed, but no other furniture. Oh, and because my name is officially off the lease, I'm under no obligation to provide power. So I turn that off too. Have fun with that, Em. During my sophomore year in college, I moved into an apartment with my best friend from our hometown. Let's call her Penelope. Before we moved in together, Penelope had lived with her grandma and often complained about how obsessively clean and persnickety she was. I wouldn't consider myself a neat freak either, so I sympathized. And then we moved in together, and I realized Penelope's grandma was not obsessively clean after all. Penelope was just a total slob. She would leave dishes in the kitchen sink for days on end. Her personal clutter grew everywhere like weeds. I never once saw her vacuum or sweep or scrub or anything. If I didn't clean something myself, it just wouldn't get done. Reminding or asking her nicely only yielded promises that she would do it later. This came to a head one day when the trash was overflowing and I had already taken it out the past 3 times. I reminded Penelope that she'd latered me the night before and she would probably take it out now. In reply, she rolled her eyes and told me to quit acting like her grandma. Okay, obviously asking nicely wasn't going to work, so what did I do? I took Penelope's favorite pastime, social media, and weaponized it against her. Trash was overflowing again and it was her turn. Bootleg Moon has tagged you in a post. Like this if Penelope should take the trash out. At first she just laughed, but then quickly realized I wasn't messing around. Like this if Penelope should clean her spill on the floor. Like this if Penelope should clean her hair from the sink. Like this if Penelope should unload the dishwasher. With every post I included a photo. Yes, including her wet hair hamsters clogging the drain. To my glee, the public humiliation worked. Her family delighted in liking these posts and poking fun at her in the comments, which only added to the revenge. But it worked. It got to the point where I would make eye contact with Penelope, pointedly glare at one of her messes, and then pick up my phone, prompting her to jump up and rush over to clean it, albeit crankily. Last semester I went abroad and studied at a tiny university. Due to it being so small, all paperwork was handled by one single secretary. Let me stress this, she did not have a lot of work to do. When I arrived, I needed to get my student ID. In this case, it was a simple small piece of paper just printed and cut out, not laminated, nothing. I went in and asked her for my ID since I needed it to pay cheaper fares for public transport, for reduced prices on food, etc. She said, "Sure, come back next week, I'll have it ready then." Keep in mind she just had to print it and cut it out. It would have taken 3 minutes, but okay, I said sure and left. A week later I show up again. She goes, "Oh sorry, I didn't get around to it yet, come back in a week." I leave, a lot grumpier than the week before. I go to her office a week later only to hear the same excuse. Not only did she not do it, she is acting visibly annoyed, loudly sighing upon seeing me. At this point, I'm mad. I'm on a budget and would have been paying full prices everywhere just because she can't seem to print out a piece of paper. I return the next day and proudly she presents me with my ID. For an afternoon I'm as happy as can be. Then I realize my ID number does not match my documents. Essentially, it's useless. Putting it into the system, as done when receiving discounts, will not turn up my account or documents. It's a dead end. I go back for her to correct it. Again, I'm sent away and told to wait another week. When I turn up again, she hands me the same ID with the wrong number. At this point, I hold a special hate for her in my heart and start to think about a plan to steal her time as much as she has stolen mine. When exam period comes around, I decide to mix it up a bit. I use both my real and fake ID number in my papers and confirmations of attendance. Those are all corrected and signed by professors but have to be put into the system by her. So, consequently, not all of my credits show up in the system, but both I and my professors can confirm everything has been turned in and graded. It's now her responsibility to find the glitch and fix it. This might have been an easy task for a competent person, but she could not figure it out. I delighted in regularly asking her about individual courses and papers and watching her get more and more desperate. Eventually, she realized that the ID numbers were faulty. She wrote me an angry email essentially asking how this could have happened. I sweetly replied that I must have gotten mixed up given that I had waited 3 weeks for my ID and then received the faulty number twice before getting the real one several months into the semester. Sweet revenge. I worked at a local grocery store and had a coworker who for years made a mockery of me in front of coworkers and customers alike. We'll call him Lee. He dated a girl who worked in our store who we'll call Joanna, and he was notoriously unfaithful. I was casually dating a female customer who shopped at our store who we'll call Madison. Well, one day, Madison told me that Lee attempted to hit on her while she was shopping. She said he asked for her number, which she claims she gave him, and that by ignoring his text that he'd get the point. I asked for screenshots of the text he sent her so I could show them to Joanna, explaining to Madison Lee's unfaithfulness and my chance to out him for the dirtbag he is, and finally have revenge for all the times he emasculated me and made a mockery of me in front of everyone. Madison obliged and sent them to me. I went on my lunch break and saw Joanna working in the Starbucks at our store. She knew I was dating Madison. I explained to her what Lee did and then showed her the screenshot. She recognized Lee's number and then asked me to text them to her, which I did. She said she was going to break up with him later that night. 10 p.m, closing time for the store and showtime for the drama. I hid by an end cap out of sight and watched them begin to argue and yell at each other. She announced in front of the entire closing staff that it was over. In a fit of rage, Lee kicked a wine display, knocking it over and making a huge mess. He was immediately fired the following day, and I felt vindicated. After years of him making jokes about how nobody liked me, endless pranks, vandalizing my car, undermining my job performance to management, I finally got mine. And everyone knew it was me after Joanna thanked me. The response of my coworkers was, "Wow, I guess we shouldn't piss Jason off." I hear through the grapevine after he was fired that his car was reposed. A few weeks later, I see him sitting at a bus stop. I roll down my window and shout, "Who's the loser nobody likes now, asshole?" and sped off laughing. One of the best nights of my life. Okay, that's about it for today. Thank you for watching. Maybe subscribe, maybe like. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one.